Cue the talent. This is the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. Today is June 10. We're meeting at approximately 5:45 in the afternoon. To my right is Councilwoman Lynn Snee, and to my left is Councilman Brock Heath, and I am Bob Phillips, the chair of this committee. We're here to talk about some additional appropriation for the Troy-Urbana Road, Piqua-Troy Road intersection reconstruction. And our city engineer, Mrs. Jillian Rhodes, is going to present the staff report.
Thanks, Mr. Phillips. You should have in your packet a memo from me essentially highlighting our overages and underages pertaining to the project. You can see that, well, the situation essentially is that when we went to install the sanitary line as part of the project, it was very deep, which was planned, but the soil conditions were unknown. And so when the contractor went to begin to excavate, soil in Troy is very questionable, and it was bad soil conditions. And so we kind of saw that reoccurring throughout the project. So the first thing that we saw it on was sanitary because it's the deepest. And that as we work our way up, we had water as well as then street reconstruction. We had to take out additional soil when we were proof rolling before we actually put the asphalt down, essentially to make sure that we have a stable enough base. So these additional requests or these additional appropriations, also you can see when we bid it, we had estimated a certain amount from each fund from an estimate, not from the actual bid. And so some of those numbers that were, some of those funds that were over is due to that. When it was actually bid, the numbers came in a little bit differently. So we were over appropriated or under appropriated in certain funds. So we're requesting a total of the $26,122.20. It was actually pretty close also, if I may add, that the bids came in at the $762. We do like to, and we had only had council authorization for the $780. So that was pretty tight, just because of the unknowns for a $750,000 project.
Okay. And Mr. Stickle, I will just, don't go away, ask you the fund balances in these accounts that are indicated here, 442, 709, 710, 711. They're all carrying sufficient balances to fund this.
We have sufficient balances in all those funds.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I know Mrs. Snee may have had one or two.
No, I think the presentation answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, mine as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from any other council people? Did I steal your thunder by asking Mr. Stickle?
Can I ask actually one?
Sure.
I just wondered, out of curiosity, what's the percentage allowance that we usually have on a project for unexpected?
Well, we like to have, like when we go, essentially we like to kind of have a max of 10% buffer over there. I mean, so you can see there was less than $20,000.
Right.
And typically we try, really what we try to do is we try to put the quantities in the bid, try to get those, as many unknowns as we can quantified in a bid to get the contractor to provide us a unit price so that we can kind of hold him to it if those unknowns do come to fruition during construction. But we had some in there, it was just the excavation. I think we were around 15 feet deep, so it just like opened up and it was a lot of extra work. So,
thank you.
Okay.
The original construction on this, how old is that base? Do you know?
I do not. I apologize.
That's okay. And how long that intersection, when was the last time it was worked on or anybody?
Sue?
I don't recall.
She doesn't remember that.
I don't remember.
It's been that way for a long
It was a trivial
while.
question, and it was so trivial nobody's going to know the answer to that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Is there ever a time where we just stand there and say, you bid $10,000 for this project, and because it came in over that, tough?
So one of the things that we could do to remedy that situation and be able to say, Mr. Contractor, sorry, but you bid this, was we could do soil borings as part of the project. during design so that we can provide that soil boring. So essentially the contractor is bidding less of a liability. He knows what he's going to get into. And then what we would say at that point is our soil borings are here. They cover the depth of our, line. You're bidding it however you want to bid it. So there are options out there to kind of reduce that risk on the city, but I don't think we've done that historically. And typically, we're really not this deep. If we do, when we're talking about, like, for example, McKeag Road reconstruction, that's going to be closing down next week, we're not that deep, one. And two, there is an existing sanitary sewer there to begin with, so we don't have as big of a risk. I would say that probably Troy-Urbana, being in soil that we're putting in new utilities, water, sewer, storm, extending the utilities from our existing, it was a little bit bigger risk that we probably should have taken into consideration when we designed.
So is that something we should consider doing in the future then?
We will on a project by project basis. Like I said, with McKeag Phase 2, I don't really see the necessity of it. We're not that deep. We're replacing, for example, just taking that one as an example, we're only replacing a short section of sanitary sewer. Water line typically isn't a real big concern because you're only 4.5, 5 foot deep, and then your storm is typically shallower than that. So we do consider it, we will consider it moving forward, especially when we're going out into the great unknown, right? I mean, when you talk about native soil that we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, councilpersons? Anyone in the audience? Okay. Having no further input here, what is your pleasure? This is an emergency legislation, okay? And your pleasure?
Moving forward as emergency.
Okay. Consensus of the committee that will move forward as requested on the report. Any other items to come before the Streets and Sidewalks Committee? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.